Good morning. This is Kevin Kirkpatrick, CEO of Avery Professional Group. We work with physicians in Canada and the US around recruitment. I am joined today by Sherry Neal from the Hammond Law Group. Sherry is an immigration lawyer in Cincinnati, Ohio, that has been working with physicians for quite a while. So good morning, Sherry.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. If the Bengals win this weekend, I'll be better. But other than that, I can't complain, right?
Well, the Bengals cannot lose. I can guarantee you they will not lose.
Oh, it's a bye week.
It's a bye week. So that's the only time I can bet 100% that they won't lose.
Yes, that's true. I get a reprieve this weekend and I don't have to stress out. So I'll wait till the next one. So the reason for this webinar or live stream, whatever we want to call it, is that I often have Canadian physicians that reach out to me and they're interested in either going to the US temporarily or permanently, or they're just curious about the process. And I've often found that there's a difference between immigration and state licensure, that getting a license is often quite easy given the US's recognition of Canadian training, but then the immigration piece is a little bit different. Can you tell us a bit about your experience first and what you've done, and then we'll get into that?
Sure. As you mentioned, I'm Sherry Neal. I'm an immigration attorney. I focused on employment-based immigration. I've been doing this for about 28 years. As part of employment-based immigration, a large sector of it is healthcare. So that includes working with physicians and nurses, physical therapists, and other healthcare occupations, and the healthcare organizations who want to employ them. We help with people getting their temporary work authorization in the U.S., and then also permanent residence, as most of them often seek permanent residence.
Excellent. So if I'm a physician in the U.S., what type of visa would I go to the U.S. on?
So if you're a Canadian, you have a lot of advantages that don't exist for other countries. Canadian citizens in general do not need to get a visa stamped in their passport to come to the U.S. They can actually apply at the port of entry once they have the approval notice from our immigration organization in the U.S., which is called the U.S. Immigration Customs and Immigration Service. So there are some advantages Canadians have. However, it's still not an easy process, a simple process, because as you mentioned, a lot of the confusion centers around the licensing, which is a state issue. I know in Canada, everything's generated or regulated by province. In the US, everything's regulated by states. So to practice in a specific state, you have to be licensed in that state. Every state has their own requirements for licensure. They're all pretty much the same. But for Canadian citizens, for physicians to become licensed in the U.S., they do not require passing the USMLE. They will accept the foreign education, Canadian education and licensure. So getting a license, as you said, can be pretty simple. The problem is the immigration piece, because the most common type of work authorization for a physician in the U.S. is what's called the H-1B category. For that, it still needs, for immigration, the physician needs to show that they passed the USMLE. So even though they have a state license and they didn't need the USMLE for the state license, they needed to get the work authorization in the US. There's a couple of exceptions. One is what's called the H-1B1, or the H-1 of physician of international renown. That's a subcategory if the physician can show they have a lot of recognition in the field, things like publications they've had in medical journals, a speaker at conferences, awards they've won, different things like that. They may be able to qualify as a physician of international renown. Similar to that is what's called the O1 category, and that's for any foreign national of extraordinary ability. And that's for people, again, there's a list of about 10 different factors that the physician needs to meet at least 3 of them. And they look at things like, how many articles have you published, and have they been in the, like the New England Journal of Medicine, or, very respectable medical journals? Has the physician been invited to speak at medical conferences because of their notoriety? Have they made some original research discovery? Different things like that they may be able to show that they have the extraordinary ability. It goes beyond doing an excellent job at your place of employment, but it's based upon, do you have more notoriety in the field, whether that's, cardiology or sports medicine or whatever your your medical practice is. You have to show that you have that notoriety. If a person can do that and they have those qualifications, then they can do that O1 visa of extraordinary ability.
Okay.
The H1B of international renown is also an option. That can sometimes be a little bit easier on showing the international renown because you don't have to specifically show that you have 3 of those 10 factors. You just have to show kind of the totality of the circumstances, but it's very similar to that. The other thing with the H1B that can be problematic is that there's a limit on the number of H1Bs that the U.S. will issue per year. And so because of that limit, there's a cap, and employers only get to file in March, and then it's subject to a lottery on being selected. And then only if you're selected do you actually get to proceed with filing with an October 1st start date. There are some employers that are exempt from that requirement, but it's only nonprofit organizations that are affiliated with a university. So some hospitals, something like that, may be able to petition for a physician in that route, but it's very difficult with that H1B. So basically, just to sum it up, just because a physician can get the license doesn't mean that the immigration option is going to be there.
Okay. Awesome. How, I think the biggest challenge obviously is that, they've had to have done their USMLEs, and B, the H1B lottery is a big challenge as well. Because I have talked to hospitals that are not for profit, but they still don't qualify, and their operational needs don't allow them to apply in March and then hope for October, right? So patients still have to be seen and stuff like that, right? So excellent.
It's too speculative, and it's such long-term planning that they usually can't file in March and then wait to see whether or not they're going to be accepted, and then wait for October 1st for the physician to actually arrive.
A lot of the Canadians that I think are practicing in the U.S., a lot of them, it looks like they have gone and done their residency in the U.S. and then have chosen to stay, right? So it's interesting because right now we are seeing several of the provinces like the province of Ontario and stuff has made it easier for Canadians trained in the U.S. to come back and get a license, because historically it was very arduous to get a license. So it's interesting because Canada and the U.S. are kind of like contrarian, where the U.S. it's easy to get a license, but it's hard to get immigration. And then in Canada, it's easy to get immigration, but much harder to get a license, right?
Yeah, so, that's a very good point. Yes, that's a very good point, that the difference is there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting from that standpoint. So excellent. Well, listen, Sherry, thank you very much. That was really all I hope to accomplish and share with the physicians in my network. So I thank you for laying that out with us this morning. I'll tag you in this in case anybody wants more info and wants to engage Hammond Law. And I've known your group for probably about 10 years, and have had success in the past, and hold you guys in very high regard. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have an amazing Thursday.
Thank you very much. I will just make one comment. We actually did change our name and merge with 2 other firms just recently. So the name is actually now Corporate Immigration Partners. Still the same location, same people, but we've just gotten bigger.
Wow.
And a different name. So same thing. Yeah. All
right. Well, and it's good too, because we have people in Canada, like nurses, that can go on the TN. So it's good. I'll share your information so that that we can get out from there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Awesome, Sherry. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.